are you?
So far, so good. We have several journalists and writers and broadcasters on the line here. We're going to begin with Michael Horn and CRN. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, great. Hey, Michael, Kiefer.
Hey, Kiefer, stand by. I'm going to roll your song, and then I'll come in. We're taping this for play later today, and I'm excited, so here we go.
Oh, great. Thank you. Drag your feet across the floor, memories in the hall, pull them down off the wall. Now it's gone, she is gone, gone. Got enough whiskey in the world tonight. Got enough whiskey, you see the light. Got enough whiskey to make it all right. Time to say.
Not enough whiskey in the world for me to get Kiefer Sutherland online, but it's Kiefer Sutherland. Welcome here with Michael Horn on CRN. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks so much for having me. How are you today?
I'm loving it. I'm loving you, all your great things that you've done in your career, and this is really a surprise here. You got a new album coming out this summer, I guess in June, called Down a Hole, and this is a cut called Not Enough Whiskey. Tell me about it.
It was a song I wrote a ways back, just kind of looking back at different times in my life, and whenever I've gone out for a drink with friends and going to celebrate something or just going to have a good time, it's always been a lot of fun, and I found for myself the times when times were really bad, that was maybe the time to go to bed instead of have a drink. And the song kind of reflected that, and that's where that came from.
You're on tour with this album coming up. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't want to embarrass myself, Kiefer, but you and I met many years ago in Beverly Hills. This guy, Rod, had this restaurant, and I, like an idiot, walked over to the table just gushing about how great an actor you are, and 24 is Jack Bauer. And
I'm
sorry I interrupted your lunch. How was that ham sandwich, by the way?
Yeah, I'm expecting it's good because I'm still standing and it didn't kill me. But well, then it's nice to see you. Nice to be able to talk to you again.
It's great.
And thanks for what you said about 24.
You know, you created everybody's a Talk 24, so I'll gush and get it over with. But what a groundbreaking series. I really believe you guys started binge watching because that show was 24 hours in the day, and I remember buying the DVDs and giving it to friends. I said, all right, we're going to just watch one more. We're just going to watch one more. You really changed the way people look at television. Everybody now binge watches thanks to you in 24.
Well, I think they were trying to figure out a way around the commercials, and I think it was a really cool move by Fox. I think we started quite late our season, so we knew a lot of people had already gotten hooked into other shows, and then they made the DVDs. I have a funny story about that. A couple came up to me and told me, the guy said, you ruined our honeymoon. And I said, well, that's not possible. I've never met either of you. And he said, no, we were flying to Paris from Los Angeles, and so we watched half the season on the plane. And then we had all these plans in Paris, and then we spent the next 2 days watching the rest of the season. And so I was, 24 was the gift of a lifetime for an actor, and certainly was the gift of a lifetime for me. And to be able to do that for almost 10 years was just amazing. And so to all the people that have enjoyed that show, I can't thank you enough.
Well, we love you, but all the great script, I know you were a producer on the show, but the great actors that came there. You watch shows now, everybody was through that series. You guys picked the right talent. It was incredible.
Well, and I think the reason we had so many actors come through the show just because no one lived for very long. There was always that funny moment when an actor started spending too much time doing scenes with me, and they would look at me and they go, "Am I going to die this episode?" I said, "No, I don't know. They won't tell me." But if your character started to spend too much time with me, it was probably meaning that it was going to end. But we had great actors through the whole run, really extraordinary actors.
Never romantically spend time with you, that's for sure. And if you're president and there is death after that, and after you die, because you can sell State Farm insurance, I think you can Farmers Insurance or Allstate or whaver Dennis sells. It's good stuff.
That's right. That's right.
What about the new series? Now, I've heard rumors there's a new 24. You may be in it. You may be out. We got to have you in there a little bit here. Tell us about.
Well, the new 24 is something that I'm producing. That I'm still involved with Howard Gordon and all the writers. And it's a great script. It's gone in a completely different direction. But I think for the writers, it's a huge breath of fresh air because I mean, at the end of the day, how many bad days can one guy have? And so they had to keep kind of coming up with new stuff, and I think for them it's a new lease on life. And I think they'll write a great show. And then I started filming a show called Designated Survivor.
Yeah, tell me about that. What's that about?
It's at the State of the Union. There is a cabinet member from both parties that is sequestered in case of a natural disaster, a terrorist attack, a fire. They've been doing this since Congress began, so for over 200 years. And in the beginning of our show, a terrible event takes place, and my character becomes president overnight. And it's really about dealing with uprooting your family and what happens to a family when they get put into the White House overnight. What are the political ramifications here in the U.S. and then ultimately the investigation of who committed the terrorist attack. So the show really works on 3 stages, and we just finished the first episode, and I have to tell you, I haven't been as excited about something as much as that for a long time. So if you get a chance to see that, I think it comes out in September, and really excited about working on that too.
September on ABC. The series is called Designated Survivor. In case you don't recognize his voice, you don't go to Bank of America. I believe he was the voice there. We've got the great Kiefer Sutherland on the line here. And here's the thing. I was known as Country Mike, so for you to come out with a sort of a non-rock album here, this new debut album that you have called Down a Hole, you're going to Milwaukee, Madison, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Huntington, Washington, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Columbus, Charlotte, Raleigh, Richmond, Annapolis, Wilmington, Paulding, Ithaca, Buffalo, Northampton, Boston, Proud. Everything's on the East Coast. When are you going to bring this thing to the West Coast?
Well, we played about 15 to 20 dates here in California, just kind of warming up. And for right now, that was just where powers that be above me mapped that tour out. But we're going to be playing all year long. And we're going to be doing dates in Canada as well. And we'll be definitely, I think it was a flip of a coin that when you get through Texas, do you make a left or a right? And for whatever reason, we ended up going left. But I promise you, we will go right really soon.
I got to be there. I'm telling you. Now, you were born in London. Of course, the great Colonel Sutherland and Shirley Douglas, your mom. But you grew up, I didn't realize this little factoid for you, in Corona, California, and then you went to Toronto. I actually would go to Toronto after being in Corona. No, only kidding. Was Corona a great childhood for you in Corona?
Well, we were all over LA. That was only actually for a little while. But I lived in kind of Los Angeles proper as well. I kind of think of my childhood kind of mainly in Toronto. I was pretty young when I left California.
And then we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back with part 2 with Kiefer Sutherland. Stay with us here on CRN. Back with Kiefer Sutherland here. Okay, you were talking about in Toronto, you were born there, and then in London, and then you were in Corona, and then in Toronto. A lot of
for a little while.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people from Canada.
Yeah, it's per capita. I mean, and musically too. If you take a look at the kind of people, whether it's Neil Young or Bryan Adams or just the Guess Who. I mean, for the amount of people that are actually in Canada, it's amazing how many people end up working in the arts and actually become really successful. I think Canada, for me at least as an actor, they have nationally funded theater. So there's a lot of theater all across the country. And so when you're about 15 or 16 years old, you can actually get a job in the theater. Whereas when I went to New York when I was 17, they would say, well, we think you're really good, but we've got a list of actors and we probably won't be able to get to you until you're about 25 or 26. And so I've just the fact that there was always a lot of work up in Canada, I think, is what helps those actors a lot.
There's so many actors from Canada, Canadians, Canucks, whatever. Even though you're I guess you're London, you're an American, you're a Canadian, everything in between there. We love it because the talent is there. Was music always a part of your deal? We're talking to Kiefer Sutherland. He's got an album coming out later this year called Down a Hole. He's on tour now. We heard Not Enough Whiskey here just a little while ago. But, was music always a part of your life?
It was a huge part of my life. I had an older brother that I really admired. I wanted to be just like him, and the big connection, he was playing music in the house all the time, and the big connection to him was to play music. I think I was probably the only kid in grade 3 that was listening to Aerosmith in Boston. And my mom made me play the violin from the time I was 4 till 10. And if I did that, then I was allowed to get a guitar. And once I got a hold of that guitar, certainly from the time I was 10 to 16, 17, I never let it go. And then fell in love with theater, and then, at some point, about 10 years ago, started a small label and really tried to help out some acts that I had seen either in Long Beach or all the way up in LA, and so yes, it's been it's probably the art form that I'm most connected to. If I hear a specific song, I can tell you where I was when I first heard it. I can tell you how old I was, and for whatever reason, I've just always been really connected to music and wrote a bunch of songs over the last 15, 20 years and played a couple for some friends of mine that are great musicians, primarily Jude Cole, and he really liked them and wanted to record a couple of them. And I think we were just going to record the first few songs to see if other artists would be interested in doing them. And he convinced me that the songs were really personal to me and that maybe I should hold on to them. And we made the album like that.
And we're glad he did. Kiefer Sutherland is our
Thank you.
You worked with Jude Cole, and the album, the label you had was Ironworks. And like in radio, you were talking and acting a little while ago, in music, it's harder to break in these days. I mean, where does a new act go other than American Idol, or The Voice? And so you guys were giving guys a chance. And I'm glad, the whole thing is you sing, but you also write. And I think that gives us more insight into you. There's a lot of things about you. I love Kiefer Sutherland. I know
one of the things
that most people don't know is you do videos at the Staples Center showing the different shots where the goalie is. My favorite is where you show where the 5-hole is on the goalie. And are you a huge hockey fan? You live in Southern California, don't you?
I do, and like you were saying earlier, there's an awful lot of Canadians that have moved down here, and Wayne Gretzky and Luc Robitaille built a bunch of rinks or ice arenas in Southern California, and you've got some of the best hockey out here that I've ever been able to play in.
The Kings all the way. Come on, Kiefer. I don't want to hear about any of those Canadian teams. It's the Kings.
Trust me, there's not a single Canadian team in the playoffs this year, which I think has never happened. I don't think that's ever happened, and the Kings are playing fantastic right now.
Yeah, they really are. And you go to a lot of the games. You get involved. I know you did soccer videos and things of that. Is your sport hockey number one?
Well, it depends on the time of year. I'm a big football fan, and then hockey is what I grew up. I think the first hockey game I ever got to go to, I was about 5 years old. I went with my dad, and we saw Roby Vachon and Marcel Dion. And that was the Kings back in the early 70s, and they were still wearing the purple and gold.
We only have about a minute left because I want these other guys to have a chance, but I hope you'll come in studio soon. But if we want to find out your dates and where you're playing, is there like a website we can go to find out?
Yeah, you can just go to KieferSutherlandmusic.com, and it'll have the tour schedule out there, and then we'll be posting. I think we've got about 5 clips in the can, and we'll be posting those over time. And then, as you said earlier, the record will come out in June. And if you like any of it, please come out to the show. We'd love to see you.
Kiefer, we love you. Just before you go, will you say one thing for me? Will you shout out "Holster Your Weapon" one time, please?
Okay, I'm going to put the phone back so it doesn't break up.
Go ahead.
Because I'm going to yell it for you.
Go ahead.
Holster your weapon! Did that work out all right?
We absolutely love you. We're going to see you on tour. The album is Down in a Hole. And thank you, Kiefer Sutherland. You're the best.
Oh, man, thanks so much for taking the time, man, and have an awesome day, brother.
You too.
Okay.
Thank you, Kiefer. I know the others are there. We'll talk to you soon.
much, Meg.
Thank you, Michael. All righty. So next up is Chris Various at the Cincinnati Enquirer, and Kiefer, you'll be in Cincinnati at the ballroom at the Taft. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Hi, Kiefer.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great, thanks. Great.
You were talking about writing those songs as demos for other artists. Do you have any artists in mind that you wanted to pitch them to?
I didn't. It was, those songs were kind of structured, and I think any player will tell you this. My voice has a specific range, and a lot of singers have a much larger range than I do. So it was, if someone tapped into it lyrically, they would be able to change the song to, augment the song to their style or their thing. And so, no, it was a pretty broad scope. Most of the artists that I'm really familiar with write their own stuff. So again, it would have been, if it was a younger artist, country artist that liked the lyric and they wanted to kind of shape the song around them, that was kind of what I was going for.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if you were thinking country artists. I mean, I've only heard the one song, and it could be described as country. Would you describe that song as country, and would you describe the rest of the album as country?
The album's actually got a lot of layers to it, but that song is kind of an old school country song, but it also kind of fits into the Americana genre as well. And there are other songs on the record, Shirley Jean, My Best Friend's got a country flavor, and then there's a couple rockers like Down in a Hole, All She Wrote. But they all still got a real Western kind of, or country kind of kick to them, but they certainly cross genres in that sense. But I think what I've always loved about country music so much was the lyrical through line, that they really told stories that had a beginning, a middle, and an end, which is kind of what I really love about films and plays as an actor. So it was kind of an easy transition into that, and the only difference is the songs that I seemed to write were really personal, and they were about my life, and I kind of likened the record to the closest thing I've ever had to a journal, whether that was writing about a heartbreak or writing about, Down in a Hole is a song about a friend of mine who, died early because of some poor choices, and some bad luck. So it's what I've always loved about country music, and going all the way back to Hank Williams and even all the way up to today. I think Dwight Yoakam's an amazing songwriter, and dealing with the Chris Christophersons and Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash. They just told great stories, and that's really what I enjoyed writing about. And then a song like Shirley Jean is actually a fictional song in the sense that, it's a song about a man on death row and his last night in prison. Certainly I don't know anybody on death row. That was just a song that was kind of inspired by a lot of the things that were being written certainly in the earlier days with Johnny Cash and Waylon Jennings and those guys. So yeah, I think what I've loved about the country Western genre is just the being able to tell a story. And I think it's done more in that genre. And even if you listen to country music now, Bob Seger came out and put out, Against the Wind, that would be considered kind of an outlaw country record, I think, nowadays. So and he's another one of those writers that writes great lyrics that tell you a story, whether it's something like A Main Street or Against the Wind. And that's kind of what I was interested in writing.
Did you make the record out in L.A.?
I made it, actually. Jude Cole has a ranch, a little small farm with a studio on it just outside of L.A., actually, in a place called Box Canyon. And we just spent a couple months up there recording, and the record's actually been done for quite a while, and we were just trying to figure out what to do with it and how to do it. And so that that took a minute, and but no, we shot it just north of Los Angeles. That's hysterical. I said no, we shot it. No, we recorded it just outside of LA.
Gotcha. I suppose you could afford the best studio band LA that you can put together out there. But is that what you went for? Did you go for like top session guys, or were you just looking to put together a pickup band type thing?
No, it was again, it's the first time I've ever done this, so I wanted people that I really trusted and that I knew. Jude, basically the band was three people. It was Brian McLeod on drums, and myself, and Jude Cole. And then we had two fantastic players, Jim Cox, amazing pianist and keyboard player, and Greg Lease came in and played some slides for us, who was also one of the best in the world. But I knew both those guys over the years when we had a record label called Ironworks. And so everybody, it was really Jude and Brian and I laid down all the tracks, and then they came in and, did their thing, which was so beautiful for the record. And that was really it. That's the band.
Are any of those guys going to be in your road band?
No, they are not. The road band still consists of people that we had at Ironworks. Jessica Alcantara, she was a drummer in a band called Billy Boy on Poison. Michael Gurley did some guitar. He was in Dada, did some guitar work for us at Ironworks and some production stuff over the years. He's a guitar player. Austin Vallejo, another guitar player from Moline, Illinois, young kid, came out to do some work with Jude, liked what he heard with this record and joined my band. And then he brought a bass player with him named Joseph De La O, and he's an amazing player too. So I got really lucky. I mean, not only does the band play well, extraordinary players, but I mean, we play well together, I think. And we also get along really well. We played about 25 shows out in California in the last few months, and then took a little break. I went and shot a television show called Designated Survivor for ABC, which will come out in the fall. And we just finished that, and that took about 4 weeks, and getting ready to go back out.
You mentioned all the connections you have to people that you recorded and play with.
Hello?
It's not me. I don't know.
Not on my end either.
Oh, shit.
Did you all play the music?
Okay, great.
Sorry about that. You mentioned how you know all these people. It's important for you to work with people that take your... I don't know what that is.
Right, Chris?
I know what it is. I just don't know why we're listening to it.
Coming from who's music?
Across the floor, there is in the hall. Pull them down. I'm so sorry about this, man.
That's all right.
Now but what I can hear about it. What was your question, though?
Please start again. Is it important for you to work with people that take your music seriously and aren't just attracted to the gig by your celebrity? Or is that not...
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial. And I think for me, what was really interesting, I had no intention of making a record. And it was really Jude Cole, who I been my best friend for
Not enough with me for me to get Kiefer Sutherland online with us. Kiefer Sutherland, welcome here with Michael Horn on CRN. Glad to have you with us.
Are we good now?
Yeah, I'm here.
We are. I'm sorry. I just called to tell them to hang up. I apologize about that. It was the other station.
Okay. So, I had no intention of actually making a record. It was Jude who really responded to the songs and said, I think you should keep these for yourself. I don't think because originally it was to just do some demos and maybe another artist would like to do them. And then at some point, I think we'd recorded about 6 songs, and I actually really liked how they played together. And I really liked playing kind of small clubs and bars, and so I kind of went with it, and it's a record, and at some point I had to go, no, I actually really do like this, and I can, no single music is for everybody, but I could defend the songs and the sound of it, and I was really proud of it. Having said that, it's absolutely imperative that, and I don't care whether it's making an album or whether it's making a film or whatever, that the people that are working together actually believe in what you're doing. And so it wasn't as much about the celebrity that I was worried that someone would come in and just kind of be about that. I was worried about the skill of the players, and I was worried about that we all kind of had the same idea for it. And I certainly had that with Jude Cole, and Brian McLeod is as good a drummer as you'll find on the planet, for what we were doing. So yeah, I mean, again, the band being kind of that very tight unit. But yes, of course, it's clearly important that everybody involved believe in what they're doing. Otherwise, it'll come off the rails really quickly.
I think I counted you're doing 27 dates in about a month and a half's time on this run. That's a serious tour schedule for doing club dates. Are you looking at this tour like a diversion or an adventure, or do you look at it as 6 weeks of serious work?
No, it's not an easy schedule, and those are just the first dates. I think in the end we'll probably be doing somewhere closer to 40 or 45 all the way through June. No, it's a job, and it's something. But it's a job that I love. But when you start playing 4 shows, 5 shows a week, you got to take care of yourself, and so there's a bit of that. But it's also a new experience, and it's a completely different way. And I've done a lot of theater in my life, so it's not about a live audience. But being able to play music in front of a live audience is such a different expressive outlet and tool. And so for me, it's a really fresh thing. I feel, for the shows that we played out here, there's a kind of visceral reaction that I have in the middle of a show that maybe as an actor I'm not getting the same as I did 25, 30 years ago. So it's been extraordinarily exciting for me, and so far the response to the shows has been really positive.
Do you envision a time when music is your main gig and acting is something you don't do or just a side gig?
No, not really. I think music, for instance, I've started this show called Designated Survivor on ABC, and that's going to require some time. But we've managed to schedule that show in a way that I'll be able to tour all year as well. I'm an actor. I love acting. But I've loved music my whole life as well. And so to be able to have the opportunity to take, 15 songs of mine and go out on the road with them and share them, and if people like them, then yes, we'll keep doing it. But I'm an actor, and I love doing that as well. So I would never say that I will trade one for the other. But to be able to have music as an opportunity, for me right now is the gift of a lifetime.
My time's almost up. One quick question. Do you know the release date of the record?
I don't exactly, but I'm hoping early June.
Kiefer, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it too, and I'm sorry for the music, and I hope that I made steps when trying to answer through that. But thanks for your patience, man.
No problem. My pleasure.
Okay.
Okay, next up is Mike Muckian with the Wisconsin Gazette, and of course the tour kicks off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on April 4th. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. Good.
How many of these interviews do you do in a row? That must be getting a little tiring.
No, it's all right. I mean, it's. I've been so used to doing it for so many years. When we would do the junkets for a film, we would do 49 7-minute TV interviews a day. So being able to talk to you guys like this is a pleasure, and I'm really proud of the record, and the fact that you guys are taking some time to talk about that at all is it's a real gift to me. So I thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time. I neglected to do that. I usually do that right away. The other guy asked, and you answered a lot of the questions I already have, so that'll make it very for us. You talked about why you got into country music. Why now? Why did you decide now to record an album, to go out on the road, and really pursue that passion as part of your profession?
I think it's a combination of things. I've been writing a lot of music over the last 10 years specifically, and a lot of it was very personal. A lot of it reflected on times when I was much younger, also dealing with some things now. And so I had a pretty good volume of material. And I think the other thing, to be frank and honest, is the idea of an actor doing music makes my eyes roll. And so I never wanted to be that guy. I never wanted to do that. And the way this album started was so kind of simple, where we were just doing demos, and Jude, who is a musician that I have incredible respect for, was really liking the songs, and so I was thrilled about that. But he's also my best friend, and I was thinking, well, maybe he's doing that, except he'd never done it in the 25 years that I'd known him. And then when we got to about 6 or 7 songs recorded, I started to really like it. And I've hit a point in my life where maybe I'm not as concerned about someone either saying something mean about it or someone calling it a vanity project or any of those things. And I just realized I really liked the album. B, I really wanted to go out and play in clubs across the country. And C, I just hit a point in my life where I didn't care so much about what other people would say. And so I think for all of those reasons, it took me till now to do it.
Hello, this is Cheryl.
Hello?
Hello?
Hi. Is this Kurt?
Nope, wrong number, sorry.
Oh, okay, thanks.
This has been an interesting call.
I think we're going to go back to the individual numbers. And I think Scott's in agreement.
Yes.
Sorry about this, guys.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So one thing I do when I talk to musicians is I'm always interested in the process by which they write a song. And you alluded to the fact that a lot of these came from personal experiences. You called it journal, I believe, or a diary. How do you go about
Yeah, it's very much like a journal for me. It's funny. I have a nice island in my kitchen, and it seems to be where I've written most of my stuff. And so at the end of the day, I might pour myself a drink. I'll have just kind of this quiet couple hours before I either have to go to bed because I'm going to work or doing something else in the morning. And I'll pick up the guitar and I'll just start playing some chords. And then I'll try and put a vocal melody over that. But when I sit down, I actually sit down because I want to write something. Like something will be in the back of my head, whether something made me think of a relationship, or something made me sad about missing a friend, or another idea. And so I would come up with a melody line, and I would write a vocal to it. And then in the case of this record, I would take a lot of the stuff to Jude, and then he would go, okay, and I really would write verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, and bridges kind of eluded me, and Jude would say, well, I would put a really nice bridge in there, and it doesn't need to be complicated, it can be really simple, and and he would add that to the song, and then I would go back and I would write a lyric to that bridge, and that was kind of the process that we would kind of that we used to shape this record or album, and it's again the real correlation I think between for me as an actor to the kind of music that I'm interested in writing really comes down to telling a story. And that's what I've always been interested in as an actor, and it's what I'm interested in as a musician as well. And so that, for instance, in Not Enough Whiskey, I mean, it's not a metaphor. This is a guy who's in real pain, who's going through a situation, and so I can almost visualize the character, and I start writing to that, if that makes any sense at all.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and so it's pretty simple actually. Sure, you know.
Does it take you a long time to write a song? And on the song.
Sometimes and sometimes no. Sometimes they come really quick, and then there's nothing more exciting than actually sitting down and you know, in 15 minutes you're sitting there trying to memorize the lyric that you just wrote, and you're actually playing the song. That's a really exciting thing. There are also songs that have taken, you know, months, you know, where you finish it and something's not working about it, and then you keep coming back to it. I do believe very strongly, for me at least, that I need to finish a lyric from A to B. If you only write half a verse, or if you write 2 verses and you don't come up with the chorus, I got a ton of those that are sitting in a book that just never get revisited. So I have learned over the years that I do have to finish the idea, even if all of it doesn't work, and then you can go back and revisit that. Or Jude might hear that and go, "Oh my God, no, this is going to be awesome," and he'll change stuff around. And Jude is a much better musician than I am, and so I think he's been invaluable to me in shaping these songs. And yeah, but the lyric is really the thing that is driving my writing, and in many cases the melody might even change as long as the count doesn't. But it's the lyric that drives me as a writer for music.
Yeah, you're not the first songwriter I've interviewed who has said that. I mean, as well as a writer, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I can imagine a situation where a melody would strike an emotion in you that would lend itself to lyrical creation, but I couldn't see that working on a frequent basis.
Yeah, no, and it I could maybe name 2 songs on the record that I found like a little nice chord change with a little kind of guitar lick in the middle of it that inspired something. But you're right, almost 95% of the time it's a lyrical idea that makes me sit down at that counter.
Okay. 1 second, please.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, great.
Finish that sentence. Now you were talking earlier too about loving being an actor and loving being a musician. Are there, for lack of a better word, are there different highs that you get when you're acting versus when you're performing on stage?
Absolutely. Night and day.
Night and day.
Night and day. Okay, I just had one of the greatest film experiences or filming experiences that I've ever had on this show called Designated Survivor. And I've been doing this for 30 some odd years. And I believe, as an actor, I really know what I'm doing. And there's a kind of, even though you're trying to be free as an actor, there's a real sense of control in how you shape the arc of not only the character, but how you move within the context of the scene, and literally from when you're going to exhale a breath and how you're going to deliver that line. And so there's a real challenge to that for me, but it's almost manipulative, if that makes sense. Whereas the music is so fresh and new to me, and this is a new experience for me. I've played maybe 45 shows in my life, and to now be able to go out and play songs that are mine, and watch a crowd react to those, to be able to play a song like "Down in a Hole" that kind of a real rocker song, to be able to get a crowd kind of going with that, that's a new experience for me. And so it's reminded me of what I felt like as an actor when I was doing films like The Lost Boys or Stand By Me or Young Guns or even A Few Good Men. It was still so new and fresh, and I was learning a lot from one project to another, and I learn a lot from one show to another now. Whereas I think when I go to do something like Designated Survivor, I'm taking the 30 years of experience and trying to apply that. You know what I mean?
More spontaneous? Is that a good word?
Yeah. Well, spontaneous, yeah, and in spontaneity you can have a mistake, and you learn very quickly from those mistakes. It's just fresher, and it's new, and it's a new way for me to express myself that I have not done, certainly in the last 30 years like I've done films. So it's just really exciting. It's also, to say I'm not nervous before every show would be a mistake. When I walk onto a set, I'm not nervous. I know what I want to do, and I have to be honest with you. It feels good to be a little nervous again.
Let's see. I'm going to jump ahead past some of these other questions. You talked a little bit. You named a couple of folks: Hank Williams, Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Stockerson, as being performers you've always appreciated because they tell a story. If you had to identify maybe the three most influential musicians on your style of music and your delivery and your approach to music, who would those be?
Well, it's funny. I mean, I would have to say, Jackson Browne would definitely be one of them. I think I find him as a songwriter just so incredibly moving. And Johnny Cash would be another, because I think he spent so much time writing about the disenfranchised and the suffering, and even all of the songs that he wrote about men in prison. He managed to give those people a kind of dignity in his music that I had a real respect for. And then Chris Christopherson also is another one I just thought was such a really beautiful writer, and he could write a song about a guy having a hangover who was using the beer half to drink and the other half the cold bottle on the back of his neck. And all of a sudden, not only do I know that guy, but I'm sitting next to him, and that's a real gift as a writer. And so that's something, and I'm certainly not comparing myself to those writers. I'm just saying that they really had a profound influence on me, and gave me at least some perspective of what I thought was, what I thought were perfect songs. Tom Petty is another one. I don't think Tom Petty's ever written a bad lyric. So it's a combination of a lot of different genres and a lot of different musicians within those genres.
Okay. Yeah, you picked some pretty good names there. I would agree with you on all of those.
Oh, thank you.
You kind of answered this in a number of ways, but in a word or phrase, how would you describe the song that you sing and write?
First of all, there's about 4 new genres that I'd never even heard about. But the genre that people kind of refer to this album as has been Americana, with kind of a country kick or a country twist. That's what I would say. Some of the songs are real old school country to me, and then there's a few other songs that are real singer-songwriter songs, and then there's a couple songs that have some real rock overtones to them as well. So, but I think the way people have referred to the record is kind of a real Americana singer-songwriter record.
It almost seems that a lot of these genres are beginning to blend, whether you call it Americana or roots music or what have you. There's not so much separation as there has been in the past, at least from what I know.
No, and I agree with you, and that's why I kind of made the joke about, you know, in the last 4 years, there's 4 new genres that I'd never heard about, you know. And I agree with you, and I think what I used to always call it, whether it was Jackson Browne or even Johnny Cash, those were singer-songwriter albums to me. That's how I would always refer to them.
Okay. Well, I think we're just about out of time, so I have 2 more quick questions for you.
Okay.
Any particular reason that you're starting your debut tour or your debut album in Milwaukee?
First of all, I love Milwaukee. I had a girlfriend in Milwaukee for a few years and actually spent some time up there. I think in the end, it's probably, we wanted to certainly play a lot in the Midwest, and I think for date reasons and for travel reasons, it made the most sense. But I have to tell you, I'm absolutely thrilled that that's where we're starting, and can't wait to get up there.
Yeah, hopefully the snow will be gone by then.
It won't bother me. I was in Toronto 3 days ago finishing up shooting on Designated Survivor, and we got hit by the largest snowstorm they had all year. So at least my blood's thicker now than it was a month ago.
That's good. And
Yeah.
everyone, I have to say, my wife and I were both big fans of 24, as a lot of people are.
Thank you.
And there still are times in our lives when we're facing a challenge or a crisis or an uphill climb, and we look at each other and say, what would Jack Bauer do?
That's
And
fine.
so my question to you is, given the current political climate and the presidential race, what would Jack Bauer do to fix it?
I think you just start to cry. You know, I don't know what he would do. I mean, I've got friends now that are addicted to 24-hour cable news because they just can't believe what's actually happening. You know, it might be the one moment watching this political cycle where Jack Bauer would say, you know, keep me in the prison camp for another 6 months till this is over, and then I'll come home. I have no idea what he would do.
Oh, I would have thought Jack Bauer would have called in an airstrike, but, you know.
Well, yeah. He spent so much time protecting, well, and certainly what's happening in the electoral landscape right now is no reflection on the president. I think he'd have to wait and see, but I think if you know what, I'm gonna just stay with where I stood, because if I start talking too much, I'm gonna get myself in a lot of trouble. But I agree with you. It's nothing like I've ever seen before in my lifetime. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Not at all. Anything you want to throw in the mix that I didn't ask? Keeping in mind?
No, I mean, just thanks so much for taking the time, and when we're up there in Milwaukee, and I really meant this kind of to everybody. I'd love, it'd be great to put a face to the name and the voice, and if you do have a chance to check out the show, and love to hear your thoughts on it, because this is a real learning process for me, and I'd love to hear what you think.
Okay, well, we're actually in Madison, not Milwaukee. Can you put us
okay.
Can you put us on the
Yeah, of course, absolutely, and the tour manager, if you do make it up, the tour manager's name is Beth Elliott, and just tell them you're looking for Beth, and she'll sort everything out for you as well.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. The only other request I would have is more to Scott than anyone else. And you listeners listed of the names of your musicians for the road band. It'd be great if I could get those in an email so I could get the spelling correct.
Oh, great. Okay. Awesome.
Well, all right. And just to clarify, yeah, we'll be in Milwaukee on the 14th and Madison on the 15th. So we really appreciate your time there, Mike. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll look you guys up when you're here.
Great.
Okay.
All right,
Take
guys.
care, Mike. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next up is Justin Stokes with TheRowdy.com and AXS.
Hey, Kiefer, how are you, sir?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate your time. I know you're wanting to get through these, so I want to make this as quick as possible for you, if you don't mind. Maybe could.
Yeah, whatever.
Awesome. Let's jump right in. You've spent a lot of the conference talking about Jude Cole. I actually want to ask you a few questions about Mr. Cole for people who aren't familiar with his body of work or his music sensibilities. Who is Mr. Jude Cole, outside of being a wonderful friend?
Jude Cole was a Warner Brothers artist at first. He's done phenomenal records, everything from Start the Car to Baby It's Tonight. He's had a couple big hit singles back in the late 80s and early 90s. Did another record called Falling Home. And he's been my best friend, 27 years. But he's an extraordinary guitar player. He's played for everybody from kind of Moon Martin to Al Green. So he's an extraordinary musician, a real session player and a singer-songwriter, and has been now a producer for the last 15 years. I think the biggest band he had that he managed and produced was a band called Lifehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And has produced a lot of other stuff. Produced some things for us at Ironworks when we started the company. He produced Rocco DeLuca's first record. He produced a really great record for a band we had called Honey Honey. So he's that. He's a fantastic musician. Works as a producer, as a player, as a writer, and was a Warner Brothers artist. And I think he was on Island Records during the 80s and 90s.
Gotcha. So he's got quite a list of accomplishments that made him both a great person to you sort of confide in for this project, as well as a great asset to have on the Down in a Hole album. So I want to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you about that. What he brought to the table for you as a producer, as a musician, when you put this effort together that was a result of your back catalog of so many songs you've been writing.
Well, I first of all, as a great friend, he was the person who I played these songs for, just to get a sense of what he thought. As a musician, the fact that he was someone I had so much respect for and that he liked them as much as he did made me feel confident about going forward. Again, this is a very new process for me, so I would say my confidence is not my great strength, certainly when we started making the record, and so he was instrumental in that. And being a really great friend, if we got through 8 or 9 tracks and at the end of it said, I'm not really liking this, I knew he'd be all right with that. And I think that was really important to me as well. And then his talent as an arranger, his talent as a recording producer are so vast that he made a record that I'm really thrilled with. The sound of it, the mood of it. I think one of the things that we were really conscious about when we had Ironworks as a label was that we felt very few people were making great albums, that the songs did not have a real continuity from beginning to end, or that there would be 4 songs that you clearly would hear on an album that were designed to be singles, and kind of the B-sides were not. They seemed like they weren't even cared for at all. What I loved working with Jude was that there was a real, we ended up recording 15 songs, and the 4 songs that didn't make the album did not make the album because we weren't really happy with those songs. They didn't make the album because we were trying to really blend find something from track 1 to 11 that made a really nice listening experience. You know, whether we succeeded in doing that or not is up to the listener, but we certainly made an effort at it. And so for all of those reasons, you know, I certainly could not have made this album the way we did without Jude.
Gotcha. You had shared in other interviews previously that that a lot of I would say almost all of the writing on this album is very personal to you, and that you valued the narrative talents of such artists as Johnny Cash and you know, Waylon and everyone else for their ability to talk about, you know, things like injustice as well as make you feel a character. On that note, is it fair to say that you've sort of seen a lot of injustice, not only as an entertainer, but as a human being, and that these personal injustices have gone into the album, or these personal heartbreaks have gone into the album, and this is your way of sort of exercising them?
Everybody has their own perspective on the way everything happens or unfolds in front of them and in their life. For me, I've always had an issue, you know, if I felt something was really unfair. And so, yeah, that's certainly, you know, and it's something I, you know, for better or worse, have reacted to in my life. So, yeah, that certainly is a theme. I think, you know, I've spent a lot of time as an actor on the road, and I think that can get very lonely. There's certainly, you know, I had a marriage that didn't work and didn't get to live with my kids, and, you know, and those are all choices that I was part of making, and so there's a sadness in that. There's also some songs that are really actually hopeful, and you know, that kind of fantastic moment when you realize that you've been looking for someone to fall in love with forever, and that they've been standing in front of you. That's a song called "I'll Do Anything." So it really rides the gamut of just kind of different points in my life that for whatever reason, when I sat down to write, that popped into my head. And you know, and then there's a couple other songs on the record that are more observational. Certainly, Shirley Jean is one of those songs. But yeah, so I think thematically, it's I've had highs, I've had lows. I've been surrounded by people. I've been completely alone at different times. So it's the human experience, and I've tried to write as much about my human experience in this record.
Gotcha. On the notion of fear, was there a particular track that you were hesitant to write or to share with the world that you felt may or may not have potentially revealed too much before you put it to the album?
I think, yeah, there's a song called "Calling Out Your Name" that was really personal, and what was funny is because it was I think that was like the third or fourth song we recorded, and I always find it ironic that the one thing you're thinking, well, maybe this one I'll just keep in my pocket for myself and I'll play at home, you know. When we ended up recording it, it became my favorite song, and you know, that was the one that I wanted people to hear the most. So I found that kind of ironic, you know. And there's some other ones that are just sad. "Down in the Hole" is a sad song about a friend of mine that I lost.
Right.
That just, you know, didn't do things very differently than I did. Just wasn't as lucky, and then, you know, got carried away one night and didn't make it. You know, and so it's interesting recording that. I didn't feel that way because there's a great guitar lick on it, and the lyric was personal and kind of reminded me of that friend, and I thought that was a good thing. When I go to play it live, I'm actually really angry when I sing that song, which I found really interesting. Like, that's what drives me when I'm singing that song.
Forgive me, sir. I'm sorry. I wanted to clarify. You're angry at anything in particular, or you just feel just sort of a displaced emotion?
When I was singing the song, I was angry that the guy died.
Gotcha.
You know, and I was angry that my friend passed away, and I was angry that he made the dumb decisions that he did, that led to that. And I was very kind of surprised because that's certainly not how I felt when I was doing it on the record. But in front of an audience, and you're kind of finding the energy of a song live, it's been really interesting to me how each song kind of affects me differently as a performer. And that one, Down in the Hole, yeah.
Gotcha.
I got to let a lot of that out.
So this overall, the not only the creation of the album, but the live touring is a very cathartic, very releasing experience for you.
Well, the recording of the album, I mean, it's certainly not. We're not necessarily chasing anything with the album. When we put the album out, and if people like it, they can get it, and if they don't have to. The great benefit for me is to be able to go and play these songs to 200 to 400 people. And yes, it's cathartic. It's visceral. It's a completely different form of expression that I've had, for almost 30 years. So to me, it's incredibly exciting for that reason.
Gotcha. And you've got a lot of tour dates coming up. You said you've got some tour dates in 2017 as well. I just have to ask because I'm in the Nashville area. Do you have a Nashville tour date booked, or?
I don't believe we do yet, but it's something certainly. I mean, right now we go south from Milwaukee, and we make our way all the way down, I think, through Texas. I'm not sure. Maybe not as far west as Texas, and then we kind of make a left through the south and go up the eastern seaboard, and then, and eventually we'll come down probably through Chicago and into Nashville and go west. So that'll hopefully all be within the next 4 months, 5 months.
Gotcha. Lastly, I wanted to talk to you about your presenter position for I believe the 51st Academy of Country Music Awards for CBS. What can you share about that?
What can I say about that?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good. Sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
No.
It's just an honor to be there. I got to present at the CMAs too, and again, it's I've done stuff for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and things like that. So music is a huge part of my life. I'm as big a fan of the people that are nominated, and Chris Stapleton's record is my favorite record out right now.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, by a long shot. I think he's an incredible writer. I think he's a very good player, and that is a voice from God. And so I absolutely love that record. Was able to give him an award a few months ago, and so I'm as big a fan as anyone. So for me, that's kind of a really nice night and a nice thing to be able to be a part of.
Gotcha. Is there anything else you'd like to share, sir? I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, I want to thank you for your time, man. It's and really great questions. And the one thing that I did want to say is, when we do eventually get to Nashville, if there's ever a time you're in one of the cities that we're playing, we'd love to see you, and I'd love to put a face to the name and the voice, and more importantly, if and or when you see a show, I'd love to hear from you about what you thought about it, because it's a learning experience for me, and take all the help I can get.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and I'll be sure to bring you a bottle of something. That way you have more than enough whiskey. How's that?
There you. Good deal. And I'll share it with you.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Cheers, man. Have a great afternoon.
Hey, you do the same. Thank you.